Welcome back once again to our continued coverage here of the Union Budget for 2025-26, which the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented today at 11 o'clock. It was a budget speech that lasted about an hour and a half, and she had covered several subjects. But the real big announcement that is stuck in people's minds is that the exemption now is 12 lakh rupees for people who are paying income tax. So they won't be paying income tax if you earn up to 12 lakh rupees.
So if you're earning practically 1 lakh rupees a month, you pay no taxes. That is what we make of the Finance Minister's announcement while she was presenting the budget, with an added exemption of 75, the standard deduction of 75,000. So that makes it, if you're earning about 1,06,000 rupees a month, you pay no taxes. That is what we make of
the statement.
Of the statement of the announcement that the Finance Minister made on the floor of the House while presenting the budget. As things emerge, we'll go into the fine print. We'll get to know as to what the slabs mean and how the tax structure will play out. Let's
begin with the headlines. Yes.
With the headlines, yes.
India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announces major relief for the middle class. No income tax up to 12 lakh rupees under the new tax regime.
There will be no income tax payable up to income of 12 lakh rupees.
She presents her 8th consecutive budget, exempts 36 life-saving drugs from basic customs duty, FDI limit for insurance sector to be raised from 74% to 100%.
Yes, Nirmala Sitharaman also says that the Indian economy is the fastest growing among all major economies. The budget focuses on driving growth, inclusive development.
India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented the Union Budget 2025 in the lower house of the Indian Parliament, marking a significant milestone with a record 8th consecutive budget presentation. With focus on the middle class of the country, the Finance Minister said that the new tax regime will substantially reduce taxes on the middle class, as there will be no income tax payable up to an income of 12 lakh rupees.
This government, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, has always believed in the admirable energy and ability of the middle class in nation building. In recognition of their contribution, we have periodically reduced their tax burden. Right after 2014, the nil tax slab was raised to 2.5 lakhs of rupees, which was further raised to 5 lakh rupees in 2019 and to 7 lakh rupees in 2023. This is reflective of our government's trust on the middle class taxpayers. I am now happy to announce that there will be no income tax payable up to income of 12 lakh rupees.
Well, Nirmala Sitharaman also announced the revised tax rate structure with changed slabs as well as rates to benefit all taxpayers.
In the new tax regime, I propose to revise tax rate structures as follows: 0 to 4 lakh rupees nil, 4.8 lakh rupees to 4 to 8 lakh rupees 5%, 8 to 12 lakh rupees 10%, 12 to 16 lakh rupees 15%, 16 to 20 lakh rupees 20%, 20 to 24 lakh rupees 25%, and above 24 lakh rupees 30%.
And in her speech, the minister asserted that the Indian economy is the fastest growing amongst all developing economies. She noted that India's development track record in the past decade and structural reforms have drawn global attention.
Over the past 10 years, our government has implemented several reforms for convenience of taxpayers, such as faceless assessment, 2. Taxpayer charter, 3. Faster returns, 4. Almost 99% returns being on self-assessment, and 5. Vivad Se Vishwas scheme. Continuing these efforts, I reaffirm the commitment of the tax department to trust first, scrutinize later. I also propose to introduce the new income tax bill next week.
And the finance minister presented the union budget for 25-26 in the parliament. While presenting the budget, the finance minister said that India's economy is the fastest growing amongst all the major economies of the world. She stated that the proposed budget measures focus on 10 broad areas. And this budget aims to take everyone along on an inclusive growth path. Sitharaman added that this budget is dedicated to accelerating growth driven by our aspirations for Viksit Bharat. Let's take a look at the highlights of the union budget.
Her white and red sari said it all. She meant business. This was her 8th budget. The Indian economy in flight was now cruising at around 7% as it surveyed the markets around it. She saw the opportunity to put money where it mattered, in sectors that needed a boost, where India could develop and sustain an edge, and also in the infrastructure that held the economy together. Her fuel, reforms. The guiding spirit, inclusivity. And the destination, Viksit Bharat. So this is what she did. More money in the hands of the middle class. No tax with total income up to 12 lakh rupees. More credit guarantee for small businesses, the backbone of exports. Additional credit of rupees 1.5 lakh crore in the next 5 years for MSMEs. New fund of funds with expanded scope and fresh contribution of another 10,000 crore rupees to be set up for startups. Support for leather footwear and products to facilitate 22 lakh jobs. Create turnover of 4 lakh crore rupees and exports of rupees 1.1 lakh crore. India Post to be transformed into a large public logistics organization to benefit new entrepreneurs, women, self-help groups, MSMEs and large business organizations. Gig workers of online platforms to get healthcare under PM Jan Arogya Yojana to help 1 crore workers. Rupees 1.5 lakh crore proposed for 50-year interest-free loans to states for capex. Asset monetization plan for 2025-30 to plough back capital of rupees 10 lakh crores in new projects. Regulatory and fiscal measures will be fine-tuned to support the plan. Extension of Jal Jeevan Mission until 2028 with enhanced total outlay. Urban Challenge Fund of rupees 1 lakh crore to implement cities for growth hubs, creative redevelopment of cities and water and sanitation challenges. Maritime Development Fund with corpus of 25,000 crore rupees to be set up. Special window for affordable and mid-income housing. Rupees 15,000 crore for another 1 lakh units. Private sector research, development and innovation initiative gets rupees 20,000 crores. FDI limit for insurance sector raised from 75 to 100%. A light touch regulatory framework to be put in place for ease of doing business. Total estimated expenditure rupees 50.65 lakh crores. Total estimated receipts other than borrowing rupees 34.96 lakh crores. Net tax receipts estimated at 28.37 lakh crore rupees. Fiscal deficit estimated at 4.4% of GDP. Well, presenting India's union budget, the Finance Minister, Sitharaman, pegged the fiscal deficit target at 4.4% of the GDP for the financial year 2025-26. And for 2024-25, the fiscal deficit target has been revised from 4.9%. It's now 4.8%. The budget also promises to continue the government's efforts to accelerate growth, to secure inclusive development, to invigorate private sector investments, to uplift household sentiments, to enhance spending power of the middle class. Let's look at the report.
In a bid to continue the Indian economy's journey on course of fiscal consolidation, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announced a 50.65 lakh crore budget, the biggest in the history of India, with an aim to maintain economic growth and keep the fiscal deficit on the declining path.
Our economy is the fastest growing among all major economies. Our development track record for the past 10 years and structural reforms have drawn global attention. Confidence in India's capability and potential has only grown in this period. We see the next 5 years as a unique opportunity to realize Sabka Vikas, stimulating balanced growth of all regions.
As per the budget estimates 2025-26, the total receipts other than borrowings is pegged at rupees 34.96 lakh crore, and the total expenditure or the total size of the budget has been kept at rupees 50.65 lakh crore. The net tax receipts are estimated at rupees 28.37 lakh crore. The fiscal deficit target for 2025-26 is pegged to be at 4.4% of the GDP as compared to the previous year's figure of 4.8%. To finance the fiscal deficit, the net market borrowings from dated securities are estimated at rupees 11.54 lakh crore. The balance financing is expected to come from small savings and other sources. The gross market borrowings are estimated at rupees 14.82 lakh crore. In order to maintain the growth momentum of the Indian economy, the capital expenditure or capex has been kept at around rupees 15.5 lakh crores, an upward revision from the previous year's figure of rupees 10.18 lakh crore. In the budget 2025-26, the sectors that have received the largest budgetary allocations are Defence 4.91 lakh crore, Rural Development rupees 2.66 lakh crore, Home Affairs 2.33 lakh crores, Agriculture rupees 1.71 lakh crore, Education rupees 1.28 lakh crore, Health rupees 98,000 crore, and Urban Development 96,000 crore.
In this budget, the proposed development measures span 10 broad areas focusing on Garib, Youth, Annadata and Nari, spurring agricultural growth and productivity, building rural prosperity and resilience, taking everyone together on an inclusive growth path, boosting manufacturing and furthering Make in India, supporting MSMEs, enabling employment-led development, investing in people, economy and innovation.
The budget 2025-26 has been crafted with a special focus on agriculture, micro, small and medium enterprises or MSMEs, an investment-friendly environment, and a major thrust on export-oriented economy, which will be fueled by reforms guided by the spirit of inclusivity with a clear target of mission Viksit Bharat or Developed India. Amit Mukherjee for DD India.
And India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh lauded the budget presented by Nirmala Sitharaman, saying that this budget reflects the concerns of all sections of society.
इस बार के बजट में समाज के सभी वर्गों की चिंता की गई है और मैं प्रधानमंत्री जी के सभी वर्गों के कल्याण और विकसित भारत के संकल्प को पूरा करने की दृष्टि से वित्त मंत्री श्रीमती निर्मला सीतारमण जी ने प्रधानमंत्री जी के मार्गदर्शन में जिस प्रकार का शानदार यह बजट प्रस्तुत किया है, इसके लिए मैं प्रधानमंत्री जी को भी बधाई देता हूं और साथ ही साथ वित्त मंत्री श्रीमती निर्मला सीतारमण जी को भी हार्दिक बधाई देता हूं। यह बजट युवा, गरीब, किसान, नारी और समाज के सभी वर्गों और सेक्टर्स के विकास को बढ़ावा देने वाला है और खासकर मिडिल क्लास के कंट्रीब्यूशन को यह रिकॉग्नाइज करते हुए यह बजट यदि यह कहा जाए कि अपने में अभूतपूर्व है तो यह कहना अतिशयोक्ति नहीं होगी।
Well, India's Minister for Information and Broadcasting, Ashwini Vaishnav, also hailed the budget of 2025 presented by the Finance Minister, and he took to social media site X. The minister said that this year's budget lays the roadmap for Viksit Bharat, that is, developed India. He also said that with growth, inclusion and innovation at its core, this budget covers all from farmers to fintech, MSMEs to AI.
All right, we are now joined by some guests who are joining us remotely. We have with us Lieutenant General retired Anil Bhatt. He was the director, he's the Director General of the Indian Space Association. And we also have Dr. Nilanjan Banik, senior economist, who's joining us on the show. First to the General. General, how do you see the budget, especially for the kind of ambitions that it, the focus that it puts on India's growth in, say, space, in nuclear energy?
Well, I'll focus on the space sector,
Right.
and we welcome the budget, and more precisely, the launch of the National Geospatial Mission. This is a commitment of the government for using downstream capabilities, and they are specified for modernization of land records, for urban planning and design of infrastructure. We have always believed that in the whole space economy, the most important part is downstream usages, and the government's focus on this is a welcome. As per our study, by 2031, this downstream sector is going to go up to $610 billion. Also, the fund of funds declared for deep tech would also help the space sector and help growth in this sector.
All right.
There have been 50,000 Atal labs which have been announced, and many of them in future would contribute towards the space sector.
Okay.
The startups minimum enhanced of the credit guarantee from doubling it up from to 10 to 20 crores is also welcomed by all members of the space sector.
Let's go across to Professor Nilanjan Banik, economist. Professor Banik, now from the MSME sector point of view, do you see a sufficient boost or support being given from the budget in terms of first of all, the categorization of MSMEs, as well as the 1.5 lakh crore rupees that have been put aside for credit for the MSMEs?
Yes, definitely, because MSME sector is one of the most important backbone of the Indian economy. We have around close to 200 million people who earn their livelihood from the MSME sector. And the MSME sector for a long period of time was suffering from inverted duty structure. Now, if you see what has happened today, FM has promised to reduce the import tariff on some of the inputs which are being used by the MSME sector. So from the perspective of the MSME sector, this is a very welcome move, because most of the bottom 40 percentile of our population in terms of income, these are the people who are actually employed with the MSME sector. And MSME sector also has the distinction of creating labor intensive mode of production, which means they are able to create more jobs at a time when jobs are hard to come by. So in that way, this increase in credit guarantee for the MSME sector, as well as in terms of classifying the MSME, reclassification of the MSME sector, I think we have a long way to go. In addition to that, you also have been mentioning about the income tax thing being reduced. And this again will have a very salutary effect on increasing our consumption, because as you know that the consumption expenditure is the most important component of GDP. So although India has been growing at the fastest pace, in addition to what we see around the world, for instance, if I look into the growth rate of the major developed countries like US, Germany, UK, all of them are growing below 2% level. Even within the Asian community, if we see Japan and South Korea, they are also growing below 2% level. The only country which is growing the fastest is India, in excess of 6.3. And yesterday we have heard the economic survey pointing out the economy is likely to grow between 6.3 to 6.8%. So in that way, this boost to MSME sector as well as the tax cut is going to boost our consumption, which is going to sustain this growth that we are seeing at this point of time, and which is also quite important for us to reach the milestone of Viksit Bharat.
But Professor Banik, yes, of course, it puts more money by cutting the taxes and putting a lot of people, by some estimates, perhaps more than 50% out of the tax net of the taxpayers out of the tax net. It puts more money in the hands of the middle class and hence will boost spending and consumption. But then that raises the question of how would that correspond to inflation?
There are two ways of addressing this thing. If you look into the inflation, in particular, what impact the middle class, it is the food price inflation. Now, over the last 2 years, India has done a fabulous job when it comes to the growth of the agricultural sector. So agricultural sector has been performing well, and we hope that at least in this quarter, you are going to see further ease of food price inflation, which is already in a downtrend. So in that way, I don't think this is going to further fuel inflation. Also, what you see, because after Trump has taken to power, there is a possibility of some of the war which is happening. Already we are seeing that in Gaza the war has stopped, which also means that the crude price is going to ease down further. And crude being the intermediate input, it also has a impact on how much inflation any country like import dependent country like India has. So going by that exogenous factor also, we are hopeful that the inflation is going to come down further, and this consumption boost or the way to see that more money is getting into the hand of the people is actually a move, because if the last quarter the consumption was actually quite tepid. In that way, this will help to rejuvenate the consumption as well as...
perhaps that is why the tax cuts have been given, so that there is a dire need to boost the consumption, which was on a decline.
So, Mr. Basu, boosting consumption is likely to boost, growth, because that's going to be a pull factor for that. But at the same time, I mean, there's got to be entrepreneurship that has to increase, right, to fill the capacity. So do you see enough being given in this budget for startups? There's a continuation of the 10,000 crore rupee fund of funds and perhaps more.
Yeah, I mean, startups remain a major focus area for this government. And in addition, there's a lot of incentives for the MSMEs to grow. The fact that the MSME ceilings have been raised substantially is a big positive. And essentially, if you look at economic surveys from 2 or 3 years ago, one of the major problems with the small scale sector is that they used to be encouraged under the old regime to remain dwarfs. Whereas what you really need is economies of scale in almost every sector, scale economies, reduce the unit cost of production, and therefore enable you to become much more productive, much more competitive. So we were acting with our hands behind our backs for the entire MSME sector, and that it has been altered substantially in this budget. Of course, I would like to see that ceiling continue to be raised every year, because it should not be held at this level for the next 5 or 10 years. It should continue to be raised steadily so that firms can continue to grow along with the growth of nominal GDP. So at any rate, what is happening here is the right steps. The real story here is that there's a substantial focus on exports, and startups will play an important part there too.
Yes.
There's lots of specific incentives for exports, but in particular what I really like is that labor intensive manufacturing has received an intense focus in this budget, lots of incentives, and that is an area where I'd say India has missed the boat numerous times over the last 77 years. And if you look back in history, Megasthenes, who visited Chandragupta Maurya, talked about India's clothes. India's clothes were the marvel of the world throughout history except the last 77 years. So we need to regain that. And what I say here is that China's exports of textiles and garments are 9 times ours. So there's a huge opportunity. If we gain 1/3 of China's market share, you can have a tripling.
Okay, all right. We leave it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Basu, for joining us today and throwing light on various aspects of the budget and demystifying it for us.
All right, let's go over to the Parliament now, where my colleague Debyendu Mondal is standing by. He joins us live from there. Give us, Debyendu, the sort of reactions coming in from various political parties to the budget.
Amritpal, the reactions, of course, from the ruling government and its NDA allies has, of course, been that the budget has been very pro-middle class, pro-poor. It has been for the farmers as well as for the startup and MSME sectors. I did speak to a couple of ministers as well as MPs from different political parties, both from the NDA as well as the opposition. And of course, as you know, like every year, the opposition parties will, of course, criticize the budget. But the NDA partners, including the leaders from Bihar, which has got a substantial amount of schemes, as well as different kinds of fundings will be given to Bihar. All the MPs, I spoke to Chirag Paswan from Bihar, and he's Minister of the food processing as well. And the setting up of the Makhana board in Bihar, which is considered as a superfood, is not only receiving praises from Bihar but also across different states from the MPs of different states, because this positions India in a significant uptick in terms of the global exports of Makhana is considered. So of course, a lot of other initiatives that has been taken by the government, and especially with the personal tax slab which has been
Debyendu, is politics also being read into it, given the fact that Bihar goes to polls this year?
Of course, Amrit, the politics, the opposition is saying that this is mere politics. The opposition is also criticizing the fact that because of Delhi election, the income tax slab has been raised to 12 lakh. But then what the ruling government, the ruling party MPs...
Really? I thought the 12 lakh slab would apply to all over the country. So, all right, that could be a political statement, but Bihar surely is going to the elections this year.
Absolutely. Bihar is going to elections this year, so is Delhi. But then, of course, the opposition parties are saying that it is the Bihar, the number of packages that have been announced for Bihar is merely because of the election that Bihar is going to polls by the end of this year. So, of course, these issues do come up after every budget. But having said this, the personal tax section is something that every MP cutting across party lines will have to say that, it was long pending, and this is something that was the demand of the middle class and the working class, which has been fulfilled by the government this time in this budget.
All right, Debyendu, we'll leave it there. Many thanks for joining us from the Parliament. We'll keep coming back to you through the rest of the day.
Well, in her budget speech, the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman also said that the budget will initiate reforms in 6 areas, and this will augment growth. It will also help us in global competitiveness. The domains she talked about are taxation, the power sector, urban development, mining, financial sector, and regulatory reforms.
This budget aims to initiate transformative reforms across 6 domains. During the first 5 years, these will augment our growth potential and global competitiveness. The domains are taxation, power sector, urban development, mining, financial sector, and regulatory reforms.
And the Minister said that the proposed development measures in Budget 25 span 10 broad areas, focusing on the Garib, that's the poor, the youth, the Annadata, basically the farmers, and Nari, that's women.
In this budget, the proposed development measures span 10 broad areas, focusing on Garib, youth, Annadata, and Nari. spurring agricultural growth and productivity, building rural prosperity and resilience, taking everyone together on an inclusive growth path, boosting manufacturing and furthering Make in India, supporting MSMEs, enabling employment-led development, investing in people, economy and innovation.
Well, on MSMEs, Nirmala Sitharaman also said that the MSMEs are responsible for 45% of India's exports. Hence, investment and turnover limits for the classification of MSMEs are to be enhanced to 2.5 and 2 times respectively. And this is also to give them the confidence to grow and generate employment for the youth.
With their quality products, these MSMEs are responsible for 45% of our exports. To help them achieve higher efficiencies of scale, technological upgradation, and better access to capital, the investment and turnover limits for classification of all MSMEs will be enhanced to 2.5 and 2 times respectively. This will give them the confidence to grow and generate employment for our youth. To improve access to credit, the credit guarantee cover will be enhanced for micro and small enterprises from 5 crore to 10 crore rupees, leading to additional credit of 1.5 lakh crores in the next 5 years.
And Nirmala Sitharaman also said that the government will set up an export promotion mission that will provide an easy access to export credit. A digital infrastructure for international trade called Bharat Trade Net is to be set up for trade documentation and financial solutions.
We will set up an export promotion mission with sectoral and ministerial targets driven jointly by the Ministries of Commerce, MSME.
Okay, we are going to go across live now and listen to what Prime Minister Narendra Modi has to say about the budget. Here's his reaction.
आज भारत की विकास यात्रा का एक महत्वपूर्ण पड़ाव है। ये 140 करोड़ भारतीयों की आकांक्षाओं का बजट है। ये हर भारतीय के सपनों को पूरा करने वाला बजट है। हमने कई सेक्टर्स युवाओं के लिए खोल दिए हैं। सामान्य नागरिक विकसित भारत के मिशन को ड्राइव करने वाला है। ये बजट एक फोर्स मल्टीप्लायर है। ये बजट सेविंग्स को बढ़ाएगा, इन्वेस्टमेंट को बढ़ाएगा, कंजम्पशन को बढ़ाएगा और ग्रोथ को भी तेजी से बढ़ाएगा। मैं वित्त मंत्री निर्मला सीतारमण जी और उनकी पूरी टीम को इस जनता जनार्दन का बजट, पीपल्स का बजट, इसके लिए बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। साथियों, आमतौर पर बजट का फोकस इस बात पर रहता है कि सरकार का खजाना कैसे भरेगा, लेकिन ये बजट उससे बिल्कुल उल्टा है। लेकिन ये बजट देश के नागरिकों की जेब कैसे भरेगी, देश के नागरिकों की बचत कैसे बढ़ेगी और देश के नागरिक विकास के भागीदार कैसे बनेंगे, ये बजट इसकी एक बहुत मजबूत नींव रखता है। साथियों, इस बजट में रिफॉर्म की दिशा में महत्वपूर्ण कदम उठाए गए हैं। न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी में प्राइवेट सेक्टर को बढ़ावा देने का निर्णय बहुत ही ऐतिहासिक है। ये आने वाले समय में सिविल न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी का बड़ा योगदान देश के विकास में सुनिश्चित करेगा। बजट में रोजगार के सभी क्षेत्रों को हर प्रकार से प्राथमिकता दी गई है। लेकिन मैं दो चीजों पर ध्यान आकर्षित करना चाहूंगा। उन रिफॉर्म्स की मैं चर्चा करना चाहूंगा जो आने वाले समय में बहुत बड़ा परिवर्तन लाने वाले हैं। एक, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर स्टेटस देने के कारण भारत में बड़े शिप्स के निर्माण को बढ़ावा मिलेगा, आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान को गति मिलेगी। और हम सब जानते हैं कि शिप बिल्डिंग ये सर्वाधिक रोजगार देने वाला क्षेत्र है। उसी प्रकार से देश में टूरिज्म के लिए बहुत संभावना है। महत्वपूर्ण 50 टूरिस्ट डेस्टिनेशन, वहां पर जो होटल्स बनाएंगे, उस होटल को पहली बार इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के दायरे में लाकर टूरिज्म पर बहुत बल दिया है। इससे हॉस्पिटैलिटी सेक्टर को, जो रोजगार का बहुत बड़ा क्षेत्र है, और टूरिज्म जो रोजगार का सबसे बड़ा क्षेत्र है, एक प्रकार से चारों तरफ रोजगार के अवसर पैदा करने वाला एक क्षेत्र को ऊर्जा देने वाला काम करेगा। आज देश विकास भी विरासत भी इस मंत्र को लेकर चल रहा है। इस बजट में भी इसके लिए भी बहुत महत्वपूर्ण और ठोस कदम उठाए गए हैं। 1 करोड़ पांडुलिपियों के लिए संरक्षण के लिए, मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट के लिए ज्ञान भारतम मिशन लॉन्च किया गया है। साथ ही भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा से प्रेरित एक नेशनल डिजिटल रिपोजिटरी बनाई जाएगी। यानी टेक्नोलॉजी का भरपूर उपयोग किया जाएगा और हमारा जो परंपरागत ज्ञान है उसमें से अमृत निचोड़ने का भी काम होगा। साथियों, बजट में किसानों के लिए जो घोषणा हुई है वो कृषि क्षेत्र और समूची ग्रामीण अर्थव्यवस्था में नई क्रांति का आधार बनेगी। पीएम धन धान्य कृषि योजना के तहत 100 जिलों में सिंचाई और इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का डेवलपमेंट होगा। किसान क्रेडिट कार्ड की लिमिट 5 लाख तक होने से उन्हें ज्यादा मदद मिलेगी। साथियों, अब इस बजट में 12 लाख रुपए तक की आय को टैक्स से मुक्त कर दिया गया है। सभी आय वर्ग के लोगों के लिए टैक्स में भी कमी की गई है। इसका बहुत बड़ा फायदा हमारे मिडिल क्लास को, नौकरी पेशे करने वाले जिनकी आय बंधी हुई है, ऐसे लोगों को, मिडिल क्लास को इससे बहुत बड़ा लाभ होने वाला है। उसी प्रकार से जो नए नए प्रोफेशन में आए हैं, जिनको नए नए जॉब मिले हैं, इनकम टैक्स की ये मुक्ति उनके लिए एक बहुत बड़ा अवसर बन जाएगी। साथियों, इस बजट में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पर 360 डिग्री फोकस है ताकि एंटरप्रेन्योर्स को, एमएसएमईज को, छोटे उद्यमियों को मजबूती मिले और नई जॉब पैदा हो। नेशनल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग मिशन से लेकर क्लीन टेक, लेदर, फुटवियर, टॉय इंडस्ट्री जैसे अनेक सेक्टर्स को विशेष समर्थन दिया गया है। लक्ष्य साफ है कि भारतीय प्रोडक्ट्स ग्लोबल मार्केट में अपनी चमक बिखेर सके। साथियों, राज्यों में इन्वेस्टमेंट का एक वाइब्रेंट कॉम्पिटिटिव माहौल बने, इस पर बजट में विशेष जोर दिया गया है। एमएसएमईज और स्टार्टअप के लिए क्रेडिट गारंटी को दोगुना करने की घोषणा भी हुई है। देश के एससी, एसटी और महिला जो नए उद्यमी बनना चाहते हैं, उनको 2 करोड़ रुपए तक के लोन की योजना भी लाई गई है, और वो भी बिना गारंटी। इस बजट में न्यू एज इकोनॉमी को ध्यान में रखते हुए गीग वर्कर्स के लिए बहुत बड़ी घोषणा की गई है। पहली बार गीग वर्कर्स का ई श्रम पोर्टल पर रजिस्ट्रेशन किया जाएगा। इसके बाद इन साथियों को स्वास्थ्य सेवा और दूसरी सोशल सिक्योरिटी स्कीम्स का लाभ मिलेगा। ये डिग्निटी ऑफ लेबर, इसके प्रति श्रम एव जयते के प्रति सरकार के कमिटमेंट को दर्शाता है। रेगुलेटरी रिफॉर्म से लेकर फाइनेंशियल रिफॉर्म्स, जन विश्वास 2.0 जैसे कदमों से मिनिमम गवर्नमेंट और ट्रस्ट बेस्ड गवर्नेंस के हमारे कमिटमेंट को और बल मिलेगा। साथियों, ये बजट न केवल देश की वर्तमान आवश्यकताओं को ध्यान में रखता है, बल्कि हमें भविष्य की तैयारी करने में भी मदद करता है। स्टार्टअप के लिए डीप टेक फंड, जियोस्पेशल मिशन और न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी मिशन ऐसे ही महत्वपूर्ण कदम है। मैं सभी देशवासियों को एक बार फिर इस ऐतिहासिक पीपल्स बजट की बधाई देता हूं, और फिर एक बार वित्त मंत्री जी को भी बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
So that was Prime Minister Narendra Modi giving his first reaction to the union budget presented by the Finance Minister in the Parliament some time back. The Prime Minister said various things. He said this budget reflects the aspirations of 140 crore Indians, crore being 10 million. So he says this will increase savings, investments, consumption, fuel growth. He says it will put this budget, he says generally budgets are about filling in government coffers, but this budget is putting the money in the citizens' pocket, increasing their savings by giving tax cuts. Then he said that this budget will focus on making India a developed country, or Viksit Bharat, achieving that. He gave the examples of nuclear energy, shipbuilding, tourism, agriculture, the various proposals in that. He says regulatory reforms. He says minimum government. He says the boost to the startups, etc., and taking care of people, the shramiks, or the people working in the unorganized sector. So he said essentially a budget which appeals to all sections of society. This is what his government is trying to achieve.
And he also spoke about the National Manufacturing Mission. He also spoke about tourism and how the new districts will get that kind of a push. So let's turn to Professor Banik once again. Professor Banik, so you listened to the Prime Minister's reaction. And it's a budget for everyone. That's the way the Prime Minister has described it. But also from the point of view of putting more money in the pockets of individuals, how do you view this? From the economic point of view. Let's not look at it from the political point of view.
So, Mark, we live in an era where increasingly we are seeing that the jobs are being taken by the machines. So at this point of time, what was more necessary is to give incentive to the sectors which can employ more people. And what are these sectors? Of course, MSME is there. We also heard Honorable Prime Minister speaking about the tourism. Now, if you look into the multiplier effect of tourism, it is the second most in terms of all other sectors that we find in the economy, be it education, be it, let's say, healthcare, and things like that. Now, tourism also contribute almost 7% of the GDP, and this is the sector which is purely labor intensive type of sectors, where typically you find the gig workers, also the small times restaurant owners, small times auto drivers, small time rickshaw pullers, even the small time vegetable sellers, they are earning their livelihood. So I think it's a very important thing when the finance minister allocated a portion of her budget towards development of the tourism sector. Again, 7% of the GDP is driven by the tourism sector. And when we talk about the agricultural sector, we also heard that in terms of the loan scheme being given to the farmers, we see an increment. Now, 400 million of our workers are earning their livelihood from the agricultural sector. So in that way, this is also quite a welcome move, in the sense that this is also going to create and boost the consumption in the rural economy. And finally, also in the MSME thing, you have mentioned about Startup India PLA production linked incentive scheme. We see that because finance minister is now going to bring down the tariff on the imported inputs, which are being used by the MSME sectors, the profitability of the MSME sectors are also going to increase. And MSME sector is the other sector, in addition to the tourism and agricultural sector, which also employ or create lots of jobs. So overall, the budget seems to be very much inclusive. And this has happened after a long period of time. At least I haven't come across a budget which is so much inclusive in nature when it comes to income generation, when it comes to job creation, and when it comes to boosting the consumption that we are talking about.
Right. We'll take a short break, and after that we'll go back. We'll continue with our discussion. We'll also go to Mumbai, but first a short break.
पर लोन लेने के लिए खुद का हैवी मार्जिन लगाना पड़ता है। 80% तक का बिजनेस लोन मिलेगा, हाँ? वो भी कोलैटरल फ्री। अच्छा, 5 करोड़ तक बैंक ऑफ बड़ौदा संभाल लेगा। बड़ौदा महिला स्वावलंबन लोन, तो शुरू कीजिए अपना ड्रीम बिजनेस।
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
पर लोन लेने के लिए खुद का हैवी मार्जिन लगाना पड़ता है। 80% तक का बिजनेस लोन मिलेगा, हाँ? वो भी कोलैटरल फ्री। अच्छा, 5 करोड़ तक बैंक ऑफ बड़ौदा संभाल लेगा। लेकिन बिजनेस शुरू हो गया तो इन दोनों कौन संभालेगा?
मम्मी, तुम बिजनेस संभालो, रोहन को मैं संभाल लूंगी।
बड़ौदा महिला स्वावलंबन लोन, तो शुरू कीजिए अपना ड्रीम बिजनेस।
Welcome back. As India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented the budget in the Lok Sabha, union ministers have hailed the budget and termed it as growth-oriented. Listen in.
Well, I think it's a complete budget. It's a budget that has been announced keeping in mind the vision of developed nation, Viksit Bharat.
I think it's an excellent budget. I would rate it 10 out of 10. I think she's covered all the important sections of the society. She's given a big tax break to the middle class, and middle class and below she's taken care of. She's given big relief to all of them. So I think the whole she's covered 99% of the population in that. So I'm sure they're going to be all extremely happy with this.
So it's a common people budget, and it's pro poor, pro women, and pro farmers, and pro youth, and especially the special concentration was given on the middle class. So I believe that this budget will create new job facilities.
Undoubtedly, this announcement which was made today to enhance the tax limits, it is going to give a big boost and big relief to the middle income group, and simultaneously it is going to give a big boost in the GDP.
And the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman unveiled her 8th consecutive budget, introducing significant tax relief for the middle class and a series of new projects aimed at boosting development. DD India's correspondent Tapas Bhattacharya discussed the budget's potential with Jyoti Vij, who's the Director General of FICCI. Let's listen.
Ma'am, from FICCI's perspective, when you talk about at the fag end of Nirmala Sitharaman ma'am's budget, she mentioned that it's a huge push for the middle class when she announced the no tax for till 12 lakhs. How do you see that, and how do you see that actually having a repercussion in a circular economy?
So in this economy, I think demand was something which we had seen was a bit sluggish. I think that also had a bearing on the growth rates in Q1, Q2. So this is a huge boost which has been given by the government, and so is obviously one of the recommendations that we as FICCI have been giving to the government, and we are very, very pleased to see this happen.
Two more important things I want to ask. One is about medical tourism that Finance Minister has announced. The other part is a major push towards the manufacturing sector. That's another thing that one believes that will catapult India towards the Viksit Bharat by 2047.
No, absolutely. I think if we have to go towards Viksit Bharat and the self-reliant goal that the Prime Minister Modi has been talking about, manufacturing has to be the backbone of the economy, where we have lost the steam in the past, and this government has been pursuing that in a very focused way, and in light of that, the manufacturing mission should most definitely bring back this goal in a very, very focused way. But more importantly, I think they're looking at employment focused sectors, which is the toys, the leather, the textile, the handicrafts, all of that. That's what can actually help in the employment part of the whole the piece which has been missing in the economy, which has been really disturbing everybody. So that's very important, and manufacturing, as I said, will also help in bringing the self-reliance in the country.
Medical tourism also is a
medical tourism, again, I think we've been promoting. We have very good health facilities in the country. We have a lot of medical people coming in, but to identify those gaps and try and plug them and make it more seamless, I think is a very, very good step.
Indeed, and DD India correspondent Shama Mishra now joins us live from Mumbai, and with her is the CEO of the National Stock Exchange. Over to you, Shama. The Nifty 50 is up by around 250 points.
Well, yes, Mark, and we have Ashish Chauhanji with us. Sir, your initial reaction to the budget, and we also heard Prime Minister speaking and laying out all fine details of it. How would you lay out the fine details?
For me, I think there are three components of the budget which I like. One of them is the more money in the hands of the middle class by reducing tax. The second is ensuring that there is a momentum on infrastructure creation which continues, and third is the fiscal deficit in check to 4.4%. These three are in a way competing priorities. If you in any budget for any finance minister, if they want to reduce the fiscal deficit, then they need to increase taxes here. And of course, if they want to spend more money on infrastructure, then again, the fiscal deficit goes up. So these three have been combined very beautifully. And for me, that is telling you that the government's tax buoyancy is there, and they have confidence that that continues. They will be able to collect more taxes going forward, despite a reduction in the income tax, which is going to give a huge amount of money in the hands of large number of people in the middle class, and some portion of that will go towards consumption, which will help companies which are in the consumer durables and consumer non-durable sector. For example, toothpaste, toothbrush, shampoo, and many other companies, or two-wheelers, four-wheelers, and TV and fridge-related companies. So those guys will see their sales increase, and some of the money left with the middle class might also go directly into the markets in terms of the savings. Whichever way it happens, it's going to basically help the markets, help the mutual funds and things like that. And at the same time, the control of fiscal deficit is a very difficult thing, easier said than done, because most governments have a tendency to spend more than they are able to earn. While as this government over last 10 years, and now this is the 11th year where they have controlled the fiscal deficit in like a hawk. And for me, this is, I think, achievement of Mr. Modi, that despite all the schemes that comes out, finally they control their fiscal deficit quite a lot. And the infrastructure build-up has picked up momentum, of course, this fiscal, that is last 2 quarters, due to the elections, they have not been able to spend. But still in this fiscal 24-25, they are going to spend, I think, 10.2 lakh crore, and next year they have budgeted for 11.2 lakh crore, which means the momentum on the infrastructure build continues. It will have a virtuous cycle being built up, because it's going to help demand for the goods like cement, steel, and whatever is required in infrastructure, as well as it will also give lots of jobs to the construction workers and engineers and many other vendors, and which will again increase the demand for consumer durable and consumer non-durable items. So that's where I think the overall virtuous cycle is being put in place by government in terms of building infrastructure, but in a more responsible way by keeping their deficit in control. And this time I think they have given much more money in the hands of the middle class.
Okay, all right, sir. So a virtuous cycle has been created, and a very important point over here, Ashish Kumar sir has said that once you give that leeway to people, to a common person who's earning that much money, he will or she will definitely put it in markets or as an investment, and that can be seen as in return for them as well as the country to grow further and move towards more Viksit Bharat.
Well, thanks a lot, Shyama, and I suppose thanks to Professor Nilanjan Banik. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for in this particular hour of our discussion.
My colleague Gautam Roy joins you after this to decode the budget. That's it from both of us. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you.